Okay, it's lesson 7. Did anybody actually look at these videos at all? And I didn't assign them for marks, but I assigned them to help you with your presentation, which you're going to be doing in a couple of weeks. Okay? So I see 1. That's good. Was there anything useful in that presentation that you hadn't maybe thought about before?
I actually found that design presentation one hard to follow on the content from the way they presented it.
Okay, fair. Yes, they were kind of goofballs.
Yeah, like literally at one point they ask about like if anyone wants to be another sponsor for them. A guy crawls under the desk and starts trying to work with some wires that were coming loose under there. It was like I stopped paying attention to what they were saying. It's going like, how is this a design presentation when they are like they look like they were just like literally some buddies who decided to try and make like a video like podcast style thing.
Okay, fair comment. Any other comments about either of the two presentations? All right, well, you can't get blood from a stone, so if people haven't watched these, I guess there isn't very much to discuss. I'm going to strongly recommend you have a look at least this 6-minute window of the first one, as well as this second presentation example, before we come back to class in 2 weeks, because there may be some useful things in here that are going to help you in preparing your your design presentation on the 15th. Okay, we need to figure out the order of the presentations. So, all right, I'm going to put a link in the chat. Actually, let's see. No, we'll just do it this way. Okay, I think we will start with team 5. So I'm going to randomly generate a number between 1 and 5, and that's the order that you will go in. Okay, so team 5, your presentation is going to be 3rd. Presentation. So code dictionary is going to be 3rd. Team 4, you're going to be 5th. Team 3, yes, thank you. I will not. Thank you, Ivan. I will not enter angled brackets. Okay, team 3 is going to be 2nd. So team 3 is Ontario Digital Life. Team 2 is going to be 4th. So obviously, amplify will go first. Okay, so I will send this out as an announcement. Okay, so there's our presentation order. And we will, for the final presentation, we'll just randomly, normally in class, I pass numbers around on a sheet of paper and people draw what this will do in terms of a randomized order. Okay, so no more than 15 minutes per presentation in our class in 2 weeks. So I want to have a look at this at Git for teams. How many of you have some experience working with team collaboration with Git, even if you've already started in this course? Have you done it before? Is it totally new? Have you ever used Git in collaboration with someone else? Okay, it's fairly new. Anybody else? Morning, Akash. Okay, Nick, so you've done it before. Rudia, you've done it before. Kapil, new. Okay, so maybe those of you who've used Git before for collaboration, can you describe a little bit about how you did this? Feel free to use your microphone if that's easier than typing it all. Rudy or Nick, could you give us any details about how this worked for you?
Yes, I've like created my repo and then I've forked the repo, and then I have the own repo in like my GitHub as well. I copy it, and then I usually end up just going and sending it to the same branch as the repo that we have, and then it updates the GitHub repo.
Okay, all right, and yeah, and that's kind of what we're gonna do. So I'll show you a couple examples of some other projects. So this one was done as a research project, but a number of different students have worked on it for a time. It's now being used. It's owned by the client, so it's no longer being done at the college. So we can see here there's 9 different branches. So the master branch is the one that we deploy to the production server, and this is running on Azure. So we have a few different branches. There's master, that's the production version. We have a staging branch, so we also have a staging version of the website. This is where we can test changes and let the client do testing, and it's connected to a copy of the database. So they can make any changes they like here. So typically, before we put changes into the master branch, we merge them into the staging branch and do testing. And then only once we're satisfied that our customers satisfied those changes are effective, do we then merge to the master branch. We also then created different branches for various kind of features. So we would make a new branch which copies the master branch, and then that allows us to work and make changes in a kind of a testing environment or a development environment where we're not going to break or affect the master branch at all. And it actually shows which branches have been merged. So in terms of doing the merge, you can either do a merge directly, but generally we use something called a pull request. And Git offers you the ability, so we can see here, it's giving me the ability to merge this code if I want. It says I want to merge this branch into my master, and it actually shows the changes. For example, but I would have to create a new pull request to do this. So that's one example. Here's another example from a group in team in Project Studio from 2 years ago. So their project has 20 branches. Their default branch they called development. And they had some branches that were for features, and different students worked on different branches. So again, they could divide the work, and then when a feature was done, so when Brandon finished the password reset, he merged it. When Vivian fixed the locations root, she merged it in. So this way we can work in isolation and then combine and sync our code together. And if there's conflicts, Git will kind of point out those conflicts and tell us how to resolve them. So we're going to do this together. Just before we do, we'll kind of do it slowly, step by step. I'll show you, this is just a really quick kind of 3-minute demo of how branching and merging works. Now, in this case, I don't believe in this tutorial the developer's using the pull request, which is sort of an intermediate step that we're going to use. They're just going to do a direct branch and merge. So I'm just going to pause the recording. It's only 3.5 minutes, but it gives you a bit of a quick overview of what we're going to be doing together. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to put this link in the chat for a second. So I'm going to open up my testing Git repository. Actually, I need to put a README file in here first, so bear with me for just a second. So I'm going to make a README file and add it to the Git repository, first of all. So I'm going to create a README file. So I'm going to initialize Git. So the repository now has a README file. So what I want you to do is make a folder on your computer for this exercise. And in your terminal, your Windows command prompt, or your Git shell, or your Mac terminal, I want you to open a window and command or terminal window and browse into the new folder you're going to use for this exercise. You can make it anywhere on your computer. The location doesn't matter as long as Git will run in that folder. So the first step when you're working as with Git in a collaborative environment is someone needs to actually create the repository, which I've done, and I have added everybody as a collaborator. So you should have received an email from GitHub inviting you to the repository. If you didn't get that, please go and check your email. I invited everybody to this repository, I think yesterday. In fact, if I go into the settings, so some of you did get the invitation, which is great, and you've accepted. Others you're showing as pending, so you just need to go into your email and accept the invitation. And the email from GitHub will go to whatever email address you use with your GitHub account. So the commands you're going to run, you're going to do is you're going to clone the repository. So cloning it will download a copy of the repository in its current state. And the commands are here on Blackboard. So the first command you need is in your folder. You need to run git init. Actually, I need to do this in a different folder. So I'll create a git test folder. So I'm going to initialize git here. So now I have an empty Git repository. Now I want to use the git clone command to download a copy of this repository. So we're going to run this command, git clone So you're going to clone my COMP2083 collaboration repository. So it says it's cloning it into, so it creates a new folder here. And notice it's got the README here. I'll actually get rid of the Git there. So now everybody should have a copy of the README file and the .git hidden folder. Depending on your operating system settings, you may or may not see the Git folder. If you need me to wait or go back, please let me know. Okay. So running that git clone command will download a copy of the project for you. And if you're just catching up, that's fine, but just give me some indication when you're caught up, please. So once you've cloned, your next step is going to be to create a branch with your name. And there shouldn't be any spaces. So you can use the git branch -f. But at first I'm going to need to go into my folder. So this created a COMP2083 collab winter 21 folder. Should have added that. I'll put it in the chat. So I'm going to do cd COMP2083 collab dash W21. So I'll just modify these instructions slightly. So I'm going to run git branch -f. I'm going to create a branch called rich. So inside, so I'm going to go in my directory. If I look in here, I just see the Readme file. So I'm going to run git branch -f. I'm going to create a new branch called rich. So each of you are going to create a new branch using your first name. So the command is here. Git branch minus F, and then I've put in italics your name. And then I want to change to my new branch. So the next command that's here on Blackboard is Git Checkout. And again, type your first name. And Git says it's now switched to the branch called Rich. So now what I want to do is I'm going to create a new file. I'll just use a code editor for this. So you can open up Visual Studio Code. I'll just use Sublime. It's fine. So I'm going to make a new file. I'll just put on simple. Oops. So I'll just put an H1 tag here. So a really simple HTML page. So create a page like this and just put your name in the title and your name in the H1 tag. And I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it in my 2083 collab folder. I'll save it as rich.html. So every one of us, we're working on the same project, but we should all have a different version. So I've got rich.html, Hung will have hung.html, Josie will have josie.html. Looking at everyone in the class, we don't have it, everybody's got a unique first name. There's 14 of us here in class, so we should have 14 different branches, each one with its own HTML file. So now we want to upload all of our branches. Right now there is only one branch. I want everyone to upload their branch with their HTML file in it. So this is similar to what we've done with GitHub before, except for one change. So I'll do git add dot, which everyone should be familiar with. Hung, I may have to look at yours after if you're getting an error. Then we're going to do git commit -m, and I'll put in the message create rich.html. So I'm describing the, okay, good. You're able to catch up? Awesome, good for you. So add your files. Make a new commit with the description of what file you made. Hit enter. So this stuff, so far it's normal. You know, we know git add, git commit. We've done this a million times. We've been together for 14 months. So lastly, we're going to do a git push, but we're going to do from the origin to the branch we've created. So normally we push to the master branch, but this time I want everybody to upload the branch they've created. So we're not pushing directly to master because that's where we may have conflicts. So we're first going to push to a branch with our own name. So I'm just going to do git push origin rich. So this should copy the rich branch with my rich.html up to the GitHub repository. So when I hit enter, it says I can create a new pull request by visiting here, and it made a new branch. So it's now uploaded the rich branch I have on my computer. And if I go back to GitHub, right? All right, great. So a bunch of other people have been able to do this as well. So notice the master branch hasn't been touched. The master branch still only has the README file. So what this allows me to do is to go in and check, okay, what work did Maria do? It says this branch is one commit ahead, and I can actually compare them. So GitHub shows me, aha, one changed file, which is Maria's HTML file. So Maria's branch has work. It's green that master doesn't have. And you can see I have the ability now to do a pull request. So I'll do a pull request first with my own. So I'll go and click new pull request. It says create a new pull request by comparing changes across two branches. So I'm comparing the changes in rich into master, and it says, hey, you're able to merge. There's no conflict here. So if I want, I can just create a pull request. It says there's no conflicts. So I can just merge them together. And then I'm going to confirm the merge. So now if I want, it says you can delete the rich branch if you're done with it. I'm going to keep it open so that I can keep working and making updates in my branch first. So I'm not going to delete the branch. And if somehow, so it says my changes have been merged, if I want to revert, I can undo them. So now if I go back to my master branch, notice the master branch now includes my HTML file here. So if you want, you can merge your own. So on the repository, you should be able to, if you go into branches, do you have the ability to create your own pull request? I think you should be able to create a pull request here. So see if you can make a pull request for your own branch. Okay, great. So Nick's been able to merge. I've merged. So Young is in the process of creating a pull request. Okay, so Nick and So Young's changes have been merged as well. Right, we've got Ivan's changes. Sure. So we did git add dot, git commit -m, and then git push origin. But instead of pushing to master, you're going to push to your own branch. So you'll do git push hung, origin hung. I'll add them here as well. So I've also, if you refresh, I've added the code here. After you make your changes, you do git add dot, git commit -m, git push origin, but you're going to push to your own branch. Right, so it shows me, it shows us the full history of what got changed and merged. So Rebecca's just working on her pull request. So Hung and Rachel, you can go ahead and make a pull request for your branch now. So far, we're creating a collaborative site. We've got multiple pages in a multi-user environment, but we can easily merge all our changes this way through branches and pull requests. Right, so Nick, yeah, there's a few issues with pushing to the master branch. So number one, it doesn't give anybody else. Yeah, you could be creating conflicts, because imagine you're pushing to master, but what if everyone else is pushing to the master branch at the same time, right? You may have conflicts. The other thing is you're not really giving yourself a way to test it with other people's code. So you may want to have like a staging or testing branch first, and you merge everything in there and try it out. That way you won't break the master branch. Yeah, so that's really the idea of having like a testing or staging branch and then master. Okay, so, and Rebecca, your pull request is still open. So if you want to you can finish that, and then we'll get your file as well. So Rachel and Hung, that's great. You guys have merged yours. So now we have all our work together. No one's overwriting anything. Now there is a little more we need to do with this, but we're on the right track here. Okay, great. So now we've got 10 branches. So here's the question now. So GitHub now has the master copy, but if we all go and look on our own computers, right, we all only have our own files. We have the Readme file that you got when you cloned my repository, and we each have our own HTML file. How do we get everybody else's work? So now everyone's worked on it, but GitHub has the only master copy. How do we each now update our repository? You got it, Rudia. Nick, good at close. Forking is kind of like, what it does is it takes it out of this repository and it would give you your own under your own account. So we don't want to fork because we want to stay in the single repository. Forking makes like your own copy and then it's independent of this one. So, okay, so Rudia, we want to pull, but first we want to go back to the master branch, right? We can leave. So we need to do two commands here. The first thing is we're going to do git checkout -b for branch master. So everybody run this command. So we want to change, I want to change from Rich to master. Radia needs to change. Right now she's working in the Radia branch. She needs to change back to master. So run git checkout -b master. Oops. Sorry, I think without the checkout. Let's just git checkout master. Sorry, there's no B. So that changes back to the master branch now. And then we can run git pull, and this will, yes, you're right. Thank you, Radia. B creates the new branch. So now if I do a git pull, see what happens, right? I now get a copy of everyone's branch. And in the master branch, it's downloaded everyone's files. So now we all have a synced copy. So when you're working in a team environment, it's really important when you start working the beginning of the day, you need to check out the master branch and do a pull, because someone on your team may have been working and uploaded merged changes into master that you don't have. So the first thing you should do is always do a pull to make sure you're fetching the latest copy. Again, let's say, Nick and Rebecca are working together on a team. Nick works in the day, Rebecca works at night. So at 5 o'clock, Nick pushes his changes, makes a pull request to merge them in. Rebecca sits down at 9 o'clock at night. The first thing she needs to do is check out the master and do a pull to make sure that she has Nick's latest changes. Same thing. At the end of the day, Rebecca's done working. She's going to push, do a pull request to merge. The next morning when Nick wakes up and starts working, he needs to check out the master and do a pull to get all of Rebecca's changes. Justin, if you just go to the repository link, it should give you the option to accept the invite. So if you can't find the invite email, just go to the repository link in the chat. That should work. Now, we didn't really get into what happens if two people change the same file. He kind of did that in the video. That can be a bit more complicated. But I think for the purposes of doing our project for now, using branching and pull requests is something that should enable your team to kind of use one GitHub repository as long as you get used to this workflow. So create your own branch. And actually, if we go to Insights, Git, it kind of neat because it actually shows you what's been happening. Let's see. Radia, 1 second, and yes, we'll get to your question. So we can actually see the different branches and who committed and merged when. So you get a visual picture of this. There's a fair bit here. Yeah, Radia, go ahead. Okay, great, Justin. We still have them in our own branch. So actually, Radia, let's make one more change now in our own branch and we'll push again. We'll go through the sequence again. Okay, so go back to your HTML file and let's add some text. to it. So I'll say adding a paragraph now for a second commit. So let's save that. So just add something to your file. So the changes, right, are in our master branch. That's correct. So still do this with me. So you'll see if we make a change and push, it's only going to push this file in our own branch. It's only the master branch that contains everyone's files. So we'll see this. Yeah, I know you understand, but we may as well do it just to see. So add something to your file. And now I want to go back. And remember, we checked out the master branch before we did a pull. So I want to check out my own branch again. So I'm still working in my own branch. So I'll do Git Checkout Rich. And you'll notice in the rich branch, it only has our own file, right? All the other files don't exist. It doesn't sync them to every branch. And this is useful because maybe Rudia, you and I are working on a branch together. We're working on a feature, and maybe I'm doing the design work and you're doing the back-end development work. So we need that branch separate from everything else. So we can continue working on that, and we're not going to merge it until we're done, right? Maybe it takes us a week that we can have our own branch with just the files we need. So now I'm going to do git add dot, git commit -m, added second paragraph to rich.html. And now I'm going to push again to the rich branch, git push origin rich. So you can change your file, check out your branch again, and then add and commit and push your change again to your own branch. Now, Rudia, what you're asking is an interesting point because it brings up one other issue. Right. So what happens, let's say we need some of these other files to work on for our own work, right? How do we do that without being in the master branch? Okay, we're going to do that. I'll do that in a second. So maybe I need to add something to your file, Rudia. How do I do it without doing the master? We'll look at that in a minute. So I'll push. So it's uploaded my changes to the rich branch. I think your mic's on, Rudia.
Yes, because you know what I mean is, suppose I have, okay, someone else have created a feature of a search bar, and later I have to work on it. I need all the latest changes done by the other team members, right? That is what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that in just 1 second. And I realize
Okay.
it's 10 o'clock, but we won't be much longer, so just bear with me, folks.
No problems, thank you.
So I've updated my rich branch again. I'm going to do another pull request to merge it, right? I can merge here, no problem. There's no conflict. So I'm going to create a pull request and merge. So it's closed my rich branch again. Right, so now my second paragraph is here. So Kapil, I don't want to pick on you, but this is one of the problems with this is why you need to use the Git commands and not drag and drop. Because when you do this, the only commit message is add files via upload. When you're working in a team environment, your team doesn't know what's in your changes. So GitHub allows you to drag and drop, but you can't describe the changes. And that's not going to be workable when your project is a collaborative project. Okay, it's 10:03. I do want to, I hadn't planned on doing what Radia is asking, but I think it's a good idea. Let's take a 10-minute break here. We'll do a little bit more with this. If a little more practice is also going to help reinforce it, make everyone a little more comfortable. And then I just want to have a quick 3-minute check-in with each team, and we will call it a day. Okay, so we'll come back at 10:15, and then I want to go through the scenario because it's a really common one that Rudy is talking about. So let's take a break here. We'll come back at 10:15. We'll do that. We'll have quick team meetings as well.